We have a quorum present. Everyone's here except for Jeff Martin, who has a big excuse to be out. So with that, if y'all would go ahead and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States and Texas flag. Let's start with the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me in the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Invocation today will be given by Brother Shafi, Board Vice President.
Okay, you can bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come together tonight with humble and grateful hearts. We pray for your guidance as we work together to strengthen our district. Give us the insight to lead with the integrity and that our decisions may reflect what is right and good. Keep us from the short-sightedness and pettiness and help us make decisions that are good for the district. Also, Lord, we want to pray for Jeff Martin and his family as they welcome in a new addition to the Martin family. I pray this as always in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. We'll go to We'll go to item 3, public comments. The board will now hear those who wish to make comments or have completed and returned the public comment participation request. This section will be conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act and board policy. Complaints and concerns for which other resolution channels are provided shall be directed through those channels. Nobody? Okay. And we have no one signed up for comment, so we'll go to item 4, presentation by the Porte ISD financial advisor on the plan of finance and schedule of events for the sale of the first installment of bonds from the May 2023 election.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Board Trustees, good evening, everyone. It is certainly our pleasure to introduce Mr. Doug Witt of Samco Capital, and he'll come now and give us a presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. I'll come without it, sure, but y'all can't hear me in the back, let me know. Video. I don't know if it's video.
Need it for the video? Okay. Right. Hi, video people. It's good to be with you tonight. All right, it's good to be back. Congratulations on your bond election. That's outstanding. I know there was a lot of hard work that went into it, and so congratulations on that. We have a board action item at your regular meeting next week on Tuesday. We wanted to preview that, see if there's any questions or any details that we can get to you in preparation. We have had a chance to visit with the administration post-election to get prepared for tonight. We'll see if there's any questions going forward, and then again we'll have an action item. I'll start with the Bond Buyers Index of Municipal Bonds. This is the national index that y'all seen from me in the past. The good news is over here we have the debt ceiling has been resolved for better or worse depending on how you see it, but for financial markets it's no longer one of those things that's hanging over us. You can see here at the 3.67%, that's slightly below the 4%, 4.04% average dating back to January of 2001. Of course, record lows occurred in 2020, record highs in 2008. So 2% down here, 6% up here, 4% running in the middle, and we have a pretty stable market. You see a pretty up and down market here that we've been at now for several months. There, of course, was the shoot up when the Federal Reserve decided that we're going to start coming off of subsidized and record low levels. So all in all, we have a below average interest rate market that we're entering into. It's not record lows anymore, but it is a solid financial market that we have before us. Here in your district, you enjoy very, very good underlying bond credit rating numbers. Of course, AAA based upon the Permanent School Fund Guarantee. Some of you may know that the Permanent School Fund guarantee ran out of capacity. It now has new capacity due to an IRS ruling that allows us to expand that capacity based on current market value of the assets. And so we're looking to have the AAA rating, which is the highest rating category that's out there. The federal government still has a AAA rating, although it has threats of downgrade every time they go into those debt ceiling discussions. But here, our underlying ratings by Moody's and S&P are in the mid AA category. So it goes AAA, and there's no riders to AAA, and then it goes AA1, AA2, AA3. Same here for S&P, AA plus, AA, and AA minus. You're in the mid-range of the second to the top category. That is a very, very strong rating. It would put you in the upper percentile of Texas school district credit quality in the market. So what the analysts cite is a large and growing tax base and with moderate concentration. Obviously, the concentration is in the petrochemical business. So concentration in that tax base is good. Concentration in one industry is a credit challenge, but they call it moderate concentration. You have access to the Houston diverse economic and employment base. You have strong wealth and income levels and strong reserves. What you control here in your district, in your budgeting, in your operations, you are very, very healthy. So that's what we have when it comes time to issue your bonds into the market. We have a very solid credit ratings with which to do that. So a review of the bond election parameters: 164 million of Prop A, 15 million Prop B, 56 million Prop C. 220 million out of that is for basic facility improvements, and 15 million is for what we call capital improvement, primarily focused in the technology area. And so what we do when we have multiple types of assets that we're financing with voted bonds is we ensure that we're amortizing these bonds on a short-term basis, even though some of the facility bonds may be on a longer-term basis. But we can sell and issue one bond out of a bond election, but ensuring that we have amortization that it matches the useful life of the assets. And in your case, we're going to be well below the useful life of the assets that you're financing. Of course, no tax rate increase is required of this bond election. We can maintain right at 28 cents on a go-forward basis. Taxable value history. Y'all have seen this in workshop environment from me before. What's new here is 23-24. We have a preliminary value. It's up slightly from the year before. I think the word and key word here is preliminary, but there is an expectation that the growth will continue. You've had some big years of growth, $1.5 billion in 1920, $1.5 billion in 22-23. Our bond model works without that type of growth. When we get that type of growth, we amortize early, we pay off existing bonds early, putting ourselves in position for if there ever is any adjustments to the tax base or law otherwise. So now July 20th is when the taxable value for the coming up year will be finalized, or is supposed to be finalized, and so we'll have a refresh of that number between now and July 20th. This over here, because you have some 313 agreements, is the value for M&O purposes, but we're here today talking about the INS and voted bond debt service budget. Tax rate and fund balance history, again, workshop type of environments, but you've seen it before. You've compressed down to 97.46 cents. That compression is going to continue. This here has gone 23, 24, 28 cents. We do not need any additional pennies to take on the amount of bonds that were approved by your voters. Over here, you have $6 million of INS fund balance. And then that includes earlier this year, as part of your 22-23 fiscal year, you did an early redemption of $11 million of existing bonds. That occurred in March of 23. With the issuance of these bonds, if you lay it out over a period of time, we get to about $40 million of INS budget year in and year out. So what's the carryover fund balance target? It can be anywhere from 6 to 10 million. We're going to put the kind of target, working target, at 8 million. That's not a hard and fast rule. That's 20% of the $40 million budget. That's more than enough, but with a district that does have some fluctuation or potential fluctuation of tax base, some potential depreciation of 313 agreements. I think that's a good carryover number year in, year out. If it comes down, that's no problem. If it goes up, no problem. But to do that at $6 million with the 2819, what I'm going to show you is you have the ability to pay down some more of those bonds, pay down 11 million, and then amortize the new bonds also in accordance with some of the Proposition B items that we're going to have. So here's our outstanding debt service with the 2023 early redemption. So here's where we are. Here's where we would be next year, fading, if we did not have any bonds to issue. So you'll see from me the ability to amortize bonds in here, particularly the technology bonds, to be able to take some of these 2012 bonds and accelerate them into here as well. So when I have new bonds plus existing bonds, how do we choose which ones to pay on first? Well, you're going to have some idea of first in, first out, bonds that are already outstanding. How about accelerate those? But it also has to do with the interest rate that's outstanding. And the 2012 bonds that we're going to call in are primarily a 5% coupon. And we're going to issue new bonds with amortization here at 5% or below. So we're bringing in the higher coupon bonds to make room for the new bonds. The upcoming call dates, of course, this is your Build America bond. We're still getting some subsidy on these Build America bonds. They do have sequestration that impacts it. But the beauty of this bond for this district as a property wealthy district is when they subsidize this interest cost, it comes into the district. We don't need it on the INS side. It goes to the general operating side, which is our most challenged budget, if you will, under the law. It's where we don't have a whole lot of flexibility as a board. To set your budget. It's all kind of given to us. So any little helpful money that comes back in is beneficial, and therefore we kind of leave this one outstanding knowing that most of that is subsidized. Again, the 2012 has still 13,000,009 outstanding in 25 through 29. We called in the 31 and 30, $11 million in March. And again, there's some 3%, but the big one here that we're going to call in is a 5%, and it's callable any date, so we're expecting that in the 23-24 year. This small piece here is outstanding at 3%. I'm going to leave it outstanding and call in more of the 5% going forward. So the summary of the plan of finance is twofold. One will be an action item at your next board meeting for the issuance of the new bonds. And then come October, November, we'll come back to you for the redemption resolution that will occur in February when you get your taxes in January to pay off on the existing bonds. So it'll be a second two-part plan of finance. The first issue here is approximately 84 million. The order that you will be adopting, and Tom and his group are in the back there, they're your bond attorneys who prepare the order. We've asked them to put in up to 100 million in case there are any adjustments we want to make between now and the day that we lock in the bond. But right now our expectation is approximately 84 million, 25 million from Proposition A, all of it from Proposition C, and a small portion, $3 million from Proposition B. And so that adds up to 84 million. That's where we'll be drawing the money from. We've talked at the administrative level about what type of sales should we utilize, which one is going to be best transaction for what we have. And our recommendation tonight is to go with a negotiated underwriting. And the reason is that we're going to get certified values on July 20th, and then a week later, we're going to be pricing those bonds. And the flexibility of this method of sale is going to create the best transaction. If I get a number, for example, that is bigger than this, if I had the competitive sale with the bid specs and no flexibility, I wouldn't be able to take advantage of any number above that. If this number comes in bigger, then we can modify it all the way up to the date of the sale. And so I think we're going to get a better transaction for the district with the timing that we're trying to utilize, which is basically about as quick as you can move in terms of these May elections and bond sales. So amortization length, 25 years with a 10-year optional redemption. Some districts have to go 30 years. State law allows up to 40 years. And so again, that's for our traditional bonds is 25 years maximum length, but we will be paying on bonds in each and every year through the 25-year period. And so our amortization statistics that show that the $3 million was paid off in year one for technology can be demonstrated to anyone, including the rating analyst who will ask the question. And of course, Tom's tax group will ask the question to make sure that under tax law that we're meeting the amortization length in accordance with the useful life of the asset. Permanent school fund guarantee, we're using an interest rate assumed to be 4.85 for this pre-election model. Right now, we're pricing bonds below that. Again, another reason why when we get our rates, I can accelerate the principal up into the earlier years. Baseline taxable value, $12.9 billion, assumed to grow 1% for 5 years. That's a modest thing, just so y'all know that we know that you're growing. It's not going to change the math significantly. We will be able to react over time through the entire bond issue as we sell each and every installment to match in accordance to the actual growth that occurs. So that will be forthcoming on future discussions. So 14 billion total taxable value. We're going to depreciate some of that in accordance with the 313 and depreciation schedules. And again, the INS tax rate at 28 cents. Summary of the plan of finance. Again, in October, November, we're going to look at paying off approximately $4 million of the 2012 refunding bonds that you called in a portion of that last time. So that'll be a part of the plan of finance. And that will also provide additional savings. Again, the estimated fund balance at this year is $6 million. With the bonds that we're going to sell, plus this early redemption, that puts the 2024 target fund balance right around that $8 million level, give or take, is what we're looking for. What does it look like on a graph? No tax rate increase. We currently are here. The black here drops down. That was that outstanding debt service chart that I showed you before. And here's what occurs here. We fill it in with the first installment. On the screen, that's showing up as white. I think on the points that you're holding, that's yellow. And then the green here is that $2 million INS fund balance, taking us from $6 million to $8 million, which was just discussed. This is the early redemption of $4 million of bonds, putting us at a balance or a budget with a $2 million surplus. But these bars here are the new installment, amortized over the 25-year period, but with a very, very large amount of payments here in the first 2 years as we maintain this. And we have capacity this time next year to go in and issue additional bonds to continue on your construction projects, etc. And then we finish it out here with a couple more installments, and that's what it looks like on a graph. After this authorization, you will, again, depending on if we sell 84 million, you'll have 139 million left of Prop A. You'll have 12 million of Prop B. You will have all of this now issued in a construction fund earning interest earnings for the stadium improvement. And that will leave you about 151 million to issue in a second and or third installment on a go-forward basis for the remaining amount of these projects that you see. And this is a capital item, so it really extends beyond a 2-year, 3-year type construction schedule. It's a multi-year based on your budget and technology needs, and very similar to what you implemented in the last bond election. It was a combination of facilities and capital items, and the capital items played out over a longer period of time. Yes.
So he has bought equipment as much as he possibly can. Of course, he's dealing with the supply and demand chain and things being, on back order. So that's taken a little time, but he has a plan. And so the budget that we're adopting this next year it's a balanced budget of 4.6 million of revenues and expenses. So we expect the fund balance to stay the same or also decline as he's able to actually purchase what he needs to purchase. And that is my presentation. Is there any questions that we could help you with? Well,
I'll say this, one of the things that Stacey and Gene and I have constantly had conversations about is we're gonna always be a property wealthy district for the foreseeable future.
With industry.
One of the ways we're gonna combat some of the issues that we're dealing with is we've got to grow our enrollment. Because as we grow our enrollment, some of those things will start to balance out a little bit more. At least we will be able to retain additional funds in the school district. One of the reasons why we're sending so much money back is we have $15 billion worth of industry tax base, and we have 7,000 students, right? And really, 92% of them are coming to school as regularly as we want. We've got to focus on several things that are in our circle of control. And one of them is we've got to figure out how to grow our enrollment. The other thing we've got to work on is focusing on getting our students here so that we can capitalize on. First of all, they're being here, they're learning. And then the last thing we have to do is so that I don't sound too political in this, is we've got to stay talking to our legislators because something's going to have to happen. There was this talk about a $50 increase to the basic allotment, and then there was a talk about going to $90, and really all of the finance folks said, for us to just keep up with the inflation from the last few years, we needed at least $9,000 per child to just be.
We need an extra 900.
At 900, not 1,000. Excuse me.
We had
If we had the 9,000, we'd really be in good shape. But 900, thank you for that. But my point is, we don't have any control over that right now. What we have control over is trying to make sure kids come every day and make certain that we do everything in our power to polish our brand and grow this district's enrollment. LaPorte at its high, and it's been 10, 12, 13 years ago, just from the old AEIS reports. I think at one time LaPorte had almost 8,000 students at one time. Yeah, almost 8,000 students, and so it's just been dwindling, and I know it's all due to storms and things of that nature. But those are the things that are in our control right now. What I would encourage the board to do is just take a long, hard look and conversation about whether or not we want to look at a Vader, or whether or not we want to take advantage of using some funds from our fund balance for a year, and then the possibility of a disaster rate at some point again. Who knows? And so, but those are some tough decisions that we're going to have to make, because I don't think that the legislature is going to come back and do much of, if any, of the things that they promised at the very, very beginning. In fact, I think right now we're being punished because we did lobby our legislators. And so they just signed a die, and now there's nothing out there for the students. So that's just my take on it.
So I've got two questions then. For the Vader, even if we were to seek the 12 pennies, we're still less current tax rate. So there would still be a tax
It would be a
decrease.
right. It would be yes, it would be a tax relief for our community. And quite honestly, it's going to be even a bigger, and so I brought this one back up so you can see. It's going to be a tax relief just by a little bit, but that MCR is going to continue to go down. I can almost guarantee it. So even with the 12 pennies, they're getting a tax relief, yes.
Yeah, no, I know. Especially because of obviously the bond, and we just spoke about it, but we're still honoring, we're staying true to that. There's no tax increase. We haven't.
Correct, and what we talked about in the bond is that INS rate. That did not increase, and that will not increase. So the decision of a Vader or no Vader, that is for y'all to make. We're just providing you the information. It does not have to be made by this week. It doesn't have to be made by next Tuesday. It's something to think about, because if you look at the calendar here, don't have to really make a decision until you got a little bit of time. You've got 2 months. You've got 2 months to really think about it. We're going to do the efficiency audit to be prepared. And then,
I would definitely ask them to do that.
Yes, sir.
We start that process, so there's no hang-ups based off the dialogue that we have.
Right.
But my other question would be on the, if we were to take money from our fund balance to kind of float until we come to a consensus, does that do anything to alter our credit rating when Whit's going to try to?
no, because he's going to go, our fund balance this next year is going to be $57 million. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going too far. We're expecting to end at 57, right there.
Okay, that's right.
So, and
We're talking about
that would be the next year's fund balance. So it would affect future. It's something that, as it continues to dwindle down, it's required for you to have 90 days. Well, we are right at, with 60 million, we're right at the 150 days, which that's actually what's recommended because we are a July 1st start fiscal year, and we don't get our tax dollars until January, February. So we have 2 more months that we kind of need to have cash available to us before the tax funds come in.
How do we build that back up if we take $8 million kind of?
Until you have a Vader and until things change, you don't. It's going to continue to decline. That's just the facts.
Cut positions and personnel. Is that
Right.
the way?
Right. So here's the way we can combat that. Just like Dr. Jackson said, we decrease that. The only way to decrease your recapture is to increase your student enrollment and your ADA, the enrollment and having kids come to class. So we're at a 92% right now. If we could get to a 95%, that's wonderful.
Well, obviously, that tells us where we're going to focus.
Right. So, and then yes, that would be the first thing is to take care of that. And then you really have to start looking. And again, we are 86% of salaries. So it's people. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about people because, coming from where I came from, we are slim. Our budgets are slim. And they're having their own conversations right now about that. So, and they had the Vader back 2010.
So on everything I've read and listened to about the compression rate, and that seems to be what the legislators are using. That's their mechanism. But there's no solution in terms of subsidizing whatever they compress, right? It's just take nothing. There's not another fund.
No, they had their option. They had their opportunity to do that, and they chose not to because vouchers were hooked on it, and they didn't pass.
Our funding was tied to whether or not.
The vouchers.
Right, so that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
So the proposed legislation with the compressed rate, they were gonna do reduction for property owners, and then they were gonna subsidize that with.
Funding. And we did not get any funding. They're just going to decrease.
Keep in mind, Lord, and I mean, this is really not even germane to this, but just keep in mind, of that $34 billion surplus that the state has, $5 billion of that comes from property wealthy districts, just like this one, from across the state. $5 billion of that $34 billion surplus comes from property wealthy districts. And so right now, we don't get any of that right now.
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, it's our reality, and we just have to take until that part changes, which is the bigger, the elephant in the room, so to speak. We just have to find ways to
work on our reality.
Yeah.
It's growing your enrollment and getting kids coming. And this is one of those years where we were not in COVID. We didn't talk about COVID a lot, but it's still, there are still students and families that still kind of come at their own will. And so we worked on that. And I'm telling you, we had attendance parties for campuses that were doing things, but we have to keep focusing on that and keep people coming.
So can I ask a question? People watching might actually have a question too. The 12%, the 12 cents for the disaster rate, it's going away, but it's Texas. post and down the line something happens, or, you know, something really good happens, how does that affect us after a Vader?
Well, the fact is, if you have a Vader, you never have to deal with a disaster rate. You don't have to depend on a disaster rate ever again. You don't get it. It's not an additional 12 cents. If you have a Vader, disaster rate is not an option for you. So to me, that's another benefit, because we're at the whim of something that we don't have control.
It's either
Praying
or.
for something to happen.
So that's a great question though. Yeah. Is there anything else that I can?
Comment on the enrollment. I know there's a lot for now parents and things at the school district, but I want to also kind of put more of a broader global kind of looking at not just the board. And I know that our relationship with the city report is probably stronger than I think it has been in the past, especially with the leadership and something in the city. But I would just have that dialogue with the city also as far as making sure the report is a place that families want, their kids want to come and live, and having that dialogue, what that is envisioned, what that looks like in the next 10, 20 years, keeping that dialogue, because we can do what we want, but we're never going to grow if parents and families don't want to move here and come here and live here and come back. So I just have to be past that relationship of having that dialogue. And then my other, I guess, question is, assuming we don't do a Vader, assuming we don't revenue, we have to look at cutting expenses. So with that being said, has there been a dialogue as far as what that looks like, as far as looking at those future, you know what I mean? Because look at $8 million deficit.
I'm going to tell
We
you.
can't sustain that.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you, my administration, we've not begun that process, because I don't ever want to start that process without having that conversation with you all. I don't think we're there yet, but clearly, if something doesn't give at some point, that ain't going to be. Now, clearly, we will take this year to study this whole process. We'll study our programming, and we'll study all the things that we're trying to do. But I don't want to mess with people's livelihoods without there being a consensus of the board and what it is that we have done everything we can possible. So I think we will focus on growing enrollment and ADA, and honestly, having lots of strong conversations. Legislatures are on their way back, and we need to go back and have some more we started our year off in the Christmas break having conversations, and I think we have to make sure our voices are heard with those folks.
Now summer, they're back here.
And again, and so there are things that we'll do, and I'll put together a comprehensive list with our team, and then we'll share that with the board on some of the things that we're going to just have to do, because I don't want to pretend like the sky is falling, but if we're not careful, the sky could be falling very quickly, and so we want to just be prepared for that. So we'll put some things into place for you so that you all can see that first. Okay.
Go ahead. I have two schools of thought about the data. Part of me says, we just did an election, we just want to do that again already. And it's going to take a lot of education to get the public to understand copper keys and golden keys and what that means for the district. But then my logical mind says, we have to have faith in our community that we can get them to understand that, so that we're not constantly relying on a disaster rate. About school finance, which is not an easy topic. And, not to get political, but I think our state has made it this complicated so that people don't understand it, because a confused mind says no. So, to me, it's obvious that we're going to have to do it at some point. Now, timing, strategy, and all those things, are yet to be discussed and determined on the board, but I'm not just think long-term that we're gonna have to do that.
I don't think it can be avoided until the state steps up in a big way. That's 12 cents. That's a lot. And you can't, I mean, everybody's facing, inflation in their personal lives, and we're not exempt. We've got the same issue here, and, we've got to be able to pay for it also. And
The only way is they increase that student allotment, which they haven't done since 2019. They haven't indexed it based on past inflation, we should get an extra $1,000 per student, which we're not. And of course, they really have no incentive to. They got the best of both worlds. They can task school districts as a village for collecting the property taxes, but they get the benefit of the surplus from it, so they can look like the good guys and say, we'll pay down your property taxes with the very money that we collected for them.
I
And
think it couldn't be said any better than that.
so they're getting the best of both worlds.
So we can just share that.
It's on the board.
That bingo, that's it. That's the issue. And they put enmity,
So they have no
between
incentive.
school
They
districts
have
and
no
taxpayers.
incentive.
So there's no
If they increase the student allotment, then their surplus goes down, and then they don't look so good.
to your point, I would counter in terms of saying that this may be the time to do it, and the reason being is because, again, we're providing tax relief even with this. And what the pitch is that we're maintaining the tax rate, maintaining our solvency. If we don't do it, if we wait and there's relief and they get a 12-cent tax break, and all of a sudden we come back and ask, it is never going to happen. There's no way. But if we can say, hey, look, we need to buy some time until the legislature steps up, because most people face and said, we're not looking for one, right?
Right.
And that's the only reason we got behind it.
We can't play with the trust of the community.
No.
Next in 10 years, we have to go for the next one. They're going to say, well, look, we raised your tax, but we didn't raise it, but perception is.
The reality, and we
Yeah.
work so hard to restore that faith, and I want to make,
And a lot of it's due to Dr. Jackson. But
yeah, I just feel like that is something that's very, very precious, and I don't want to take it for granted. I want to be as transparent as possible. It is going to be a lot of work again in terms of educating the public and let them know, hey, this is what's going on. This is beyond our control, and this is what I propose. But I could go the other way. I'm just saying that I would really weigh out the fact of, okay, if they're going to have to see a 12, that's huge for anybody. I mean, all of us. We're all taxpayers. So I think that now is the time to look at it, because we're still offering relief,
and
even though it's minimal.
And one of the things we've got is one of the biggest things is educate with this state, a different bucket than what the bond was. So they'll say, well, wait a minute, y'all still on the statement. Well, that's another bucket. We're talking about the other bucket now. And so that's going to be one of the issues.
Yeah, we definitely have to have a lot of work in terms of workshops and language and, presentations, but it's a conversation that has to take place. On the other reality is the fact that staying competitive and staying relevant. How do we fill these teacher voids, these opportunities we have? When they're uncertain and we can't. How are the other districts right now? Do we have numbers on stipends or retention bonuses or incentives in that manner, which will go on the books for a fiscal period instead of effectively forever? If I gave them a 5% raise, one, it's going to get eaten up in inflation, but also I have to sustain that forever.
Right.
Whereas if I can come this year, let's be attractive and entice some people to come join our team and win them over, and then hopefully we got some funds come back next year, what have you. I feel like that would be more feasible.
Well, when Stacy and I started kind of calling around, or one of the first things we did was just quietly call around to our colleagues and our contacts in the area, our neighbors. And the issue that we kind of put into this budget was kind of what we're hearing. Now, no one's come out publicly and said anything yet, because everybody you see lots of folks saying, we paid an additional stipend for this, an additional stipend for that. Well, that happens, but that's always been part of kind of some of those
And,
conversations.
and some of those that I've seen are a lot of fast growth districts.
Their
So
enrollment.
their enrollment is skyrocketing, new neighborhoods are coming up, and they have to fill schools. They've got kids coming, they've got to fill these positions, and we're all fighting for the same teachers. We're fighting for the same pool of people. So, they have a bucket of money that we don't have, because there's a bucket of money from TEA that's for fast, plus that, and then also they get money for fast growth. So that's a whole nother pool of money that we don't even get to touch, that they do. So they have, their different districts are built differently. I mean, all in all, we're built the same, but they all have different caveats, right? So have different personalities.
And I think our
And
caveat
that's-
is really, is the family type atmosphere that you get here and the closeness to the small community. But you don't get that if you're somebody that's not related to the district, right? So you gotta entice them in and then buy some time, and then they will see the point of difference, right?
Right.
And that's how you get, people to stay long term. So I just feel like looking at it creatively that way to address some of these issues, I think is something we need to explore.
Well, and it's kind of like what David was saying is like, to build the community and entice families to come and live here. We're not going to, as a district, if we continue to lose $8 million every year, we're not going to be in a position to be able to do that.
Right.
And to build our community the way that we want to build it, because the school district is built, we are the community, right?
Did you run any numbers on a one-time bonus rather than the 2%?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yes, I need that.
It was in the email.
Right. So if we did exactly what we did last year, it would be almost $2 million, 1.9 million. 1.94.
One time, what was the payment?
It was that was just with employees getting 1 to 5 year experience, get $1,000, 6 to 10 get 2. So that normally you don't do either or.
Right.
You do either a raise or you just do a raise. You don't usually ever do a retention like a stipend just for it, because depending on how the stipend's built up, that's not TRS eligible. And so everyone who is an employee of the school district, we need to honor their retirement. And so we want it to be TRS eligible.
Well, I ran those same numbers. If the board didn't think that amount was feasible, I did 500, 1,000, 2,000, and that's 1.1 million, if that's a little bit on how that would make.
Instead of that being 8.5 million in the whole, that would be that'd be 9.5 million in the whole. So just think about it, keep that in mind.
But that's with
Yes,
the
ma'am.
2%.
That's with the 2%, yes ma'am.
I know, just different colleagues and board members that I have at different districts that I've been talking to, I think we're very competitive on our starting salary, the 60,000, I think is good. I think we're behind on some stipends like a master's degree and doctoral degrees and things like that, as far as today's point about retention. And I always worry about insurance costs for employees and their families. And I know you said that the best estimate was that it was going up like 9%.
Well, actually, we got the numbers.
Okay.
And I believe that was in the email that Dr. Jackson sent you this past week. And so it averaged out to 7%. So some was just 4% increase. Last year it decreased. So this year it went up because the legislation actually gave money to TRS and helped, because it could have gone up. They were estimating to 24%. So when I averaged it out, it's about a 7%, but some are 4 and some are 7, so.
I know I had asked you if we could go out for bid, and you very difficult, but y'all may not know, we can't go out to bid on TRS, that's the 35 booths.
Yes.
The preliminary that we're looking at right here, does that include the resource officers and all
Yes,
that
it does.
stuff? It does have the resource
It does. It has that built in. Sorry.
I want to talk about that.
Right here, as part of that.
First of all, I know we're having trouble finding them. Secondly, another frustration of the legislature, whopping, 28 cents per student to help us pay for a mandate to however many million that's going to be. Anyway, with HB3, we don't have a choice. We have to have an officer at every building.
Well, that's, and here's the deal. The board asked the governor signed it or not. We were gonna make that happen this year. So that's what I want to share. That's what I'm saying, but
as far as our goal,
Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to make, because
No, I don't think it does.
I don't know that.
well, we had asked for it.
No, I think it's decided.
More documents than forward.
I'd have to go back and look that.
But in short, you're right. The state says we're giving $50 million to schools for safety and security, but there's 1,056 school districts in the state. So when it comes down to it, it's pennies that we receive, and we're still having to, and we should do it anyway. We need to protect our students, and we need to have some safety and security. But what they're trying to say they're doing for us, they're not really doing for us. That's your point.
But it's included in there. Right now,
It
this
is.
number covers all of our campus. We have a,
Right. The additional 3 that, yes, that we talked about is, yes.
That allotted amount is for an additional 3 SROs. At this point, trying to work with the city to save that area.
right.
So, if it goes to the council and all that, we didn't want it to beginning, another one at Christmas, kind of go that route. They have to hire them, you're trying to hire themselves. They got the fees, so we're trying to work with it. Meanwhile, with that allotted amount, we are going to advertise an hourly rate to work with officers that are opportunities to come in, which we've done, and we've been very successful with that. So all the elementaries, no matter what, we'll start with SROs, morning before hours,
And we've got some conversations that I'll have quietly with the board, and just one-on-one about some things.
Yeah, I didn't want to get off the camera. I just want to make sure that number was included. And then, also, I know I requested before the sped comparison on matching them to the transportation department.
Yes.
What that would look like.
Yes.
You got that?
Do you want me to talk about that? Okay, so we have, to be able to do that, that would be $845,000 for 1 year. And that, again, once you do that, you can't take that away.
Right, and that is with the current staff.
That's with the current staffing, where they currently sit in the mid-max.
Gotcha.
I moved them to the to their same spot in the mid-max for the bus, yes, and it's $845,000.
So what is that?
So Danny asked for, if our current, our current sped paraprofessionals, if their pay scale matched a bus driver's pay scale, how much would that cost the district? And so it would cost $845,000 if they made the same.
What is that number?
Yes.
Is it up here?
Yeah.
No, it's not. I'm sorry. Angie, do you have it? Yes, it's on the back page here, so thank you for bringing this. They are actually in the manual section. So a bus driver, the minimum for a bus driver is $19.29. The midpoint is $23.24, and the max is $27.18.
That's bus, what is?
That's a bus driver. The paras are over, there's multiple types of paras. Right, but there's, okay. So that would be 1431 is the min, the midpoint is 1724, and the max is 2017.
So next, does that include the increase that we gave them last year?
Yes.
They were making, prior to that, they were making, this our last year's compensation.
Right.
For people who chose to full on that. But they're going to, it's like a 1555 action.
Yeah, go ahead. Russell,
What's a bus driver's hours?
like how many hours?
How many hours does a bus driver
6.
work a day?
6 hours a day.
6 hours of pairs work a day.
Yes, ma'am, yes. Is there anything else I can answer for y'all?
We didn't include increasing the midpoint in the budget, did we? That 845,000 is
Oh.
not included.
No, no, that's, no, yeah, that was a question after the fact. This is with our current pay scale, a 2% increase with our current pay scale. Okay?
So, you know, before.
Okay.
I know, I'm sorry. Fine art, is this the first year? Oh, okay, I see. I want to talk about the color guard for the band. Is it true that they do not have a director? Or a,
We hire a color guard instructor through the contract service.
okay. So that's why they're not listed on the stipend. And can you explain to me how the budget works as far as purchases for their flags and props and uniforms and things like that?
We take color guard supplies, flags, sabers, rifles, things that are concrete that you can use from year to year. We take that out of the 199. The uniforms themselves, the girls and guys keep those for the most part. So they do fundraising for that, we take that out of the activity account. Anything that stays with the program, we take out of our general fund. So we do a combination of fundraising.
So part of it's fundraising,
Yes.
part of it's not. Do they pay a fee, like, you know, if a child that wants to be a cheerleader, I know that's a big fee. A child that wants to be a Chato has to pay.
We don't have a set fee, we, depending upon what they do each year.
Because I know it's creative, so it's
Yes.
like, if they're making
Yes.
X, Y, Z.
Let's say if they do, so for their indoor show in the spring, we purchase their floor, which is allows, covers the gym. That comes out of our budget here, because we keep it.
Okay.
And that's typically the most expensive.
Well, I know sometimes they borrow props from the leader art program, and things like that, to minimize cost. I was just curious, because I didn't see a stipend for an instructor, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen an instructor listed on any, you know, hiring, so it's through contract. Are they hard to find?
Yes. Incredibly hard.
Most of your programs are gonna have a contract.
Wow.
That is the bane of our hiring existence every year, because it's a very transient position.
In regards to stipends, when we were looking at comparisons to other school districts, I think maybe Deer Park is salary structured differently, maybe because baseball said their stipend is $24,000 or something like that, and ours is $7,000.
So are their salaries structured differently possibly?
Well, a lot of it is grandfathered in from a long time ago. So, and they've been there for a long time, and they've won many state championships. So they are the outlier. They are way the outlier, if you
So
look at
Melissa just asked me a question about a specific unit where there wasn't a stipend there. And I quickly ran it in. And it makes sense when you don't see a stipend there. When you don't see something in that stipend sheet that we gave you, it's because they're being paid by their daily rate versus a stipend for. Some of those folks are paid more days than they are for a stipend. And so sometimes you see that.
So
But
like
if you-
high school reimbursement.
Right. Yeah, if you see one and there's not a stipend, it's President, anything else? Board?
The only comment on it is just a general comment, so we talked about things that we can do, and help support to the small community. I say I have a village, you know, I've got my kids' school is our village, but the whole community is like a village. So reaching out to the village people, the kids are there, they can be in school, and we're doing everything we can to support those kids who live in the school, because it's going to only benefit them in the long run.
I have one more thing, sorry. So on church on Sunday, as y'all heard it, the church and some other organizations are raising money today for, what is it? Interventionist. Is that something that we need their help on? I'm not gonna say it's almost embarrassing, but I really appreciate
And it may be a little embarrassing to some, but here's the deal. That's been going on for many years. Andy, you worked at the campus that we're talking about years ago, and it's been going on for a long time. So when I got here, I questioned why was it happening, because I think there's only one place that that's happening. Well, okay, so two places. Okay, so my point is, I think those people decided that they wanted to do that. They're not doing it because the school district refuses to help, because there's title funds, there's funding sources to take care of those kinds of things. So is it extra? Absolutely. Is it appreciated? Absolutely. But even if that did not happen, those campuses would be able to do that. Now, I don't want to be the person to tell them we don't need it anymore. I think that should be between the campus and that community.
And it goes directly to the campus.
So it's not subjected to the school district. But it was just their way of saying they want to be involved and that they want to support the school system. So it was additional.
Okay, the commission of the board, can you take a 10-minute break before we go to the next one? Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break.
Check one, check one. Okay, guys, we're gonna get started.
Okay, item 6, update review of Bulldog Stadium and other barn projects. Dr. Bromley.
Follow up the budget. All right? Thank God the bond passed. That talk of the budget would have been a whole different conversation. Okay, we'll get started tonight. It'll be a twofold. The first piece will be introducing some of our team members, and they're going to come up and talk a little bit about the roles that they serve. This is just not me and other members of the district in a room making decisions. We've got experts throughout different fields of construction, whether it be architect, program management, construction management, so we're going to do that. But in the end, Mr. Barnes and his team are going to do a quick flyover of the stadium. Not quick, but we're going to open that up and look at it and allow anybody to ask questions. I know the burning question is when are we starting? When's things going to start getting dirty and tore down? It's coming. We've got to get the logistics in place so we can hit these dates and different things that we've kind of put out to try to work towards. So first I'm going to ask Mr. Jeff Hurd to come up. Jeff is our member from Gallagher. Gallagher is our program manager. He's going to talk a little bit about the role that they serve for Porte ISD, but they are critical, very, very critical in protecting us and ensuring that any money item that comes across the desk gets reviewed and checked 3 times right before it hits Dr. Jackson's desk to be signed. So I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Hurd, and he's going to talk through a few slides.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson and board chair, board members. Thank you, Dr. Bromley, for the opportunity to stand before you tonight and to introduce Gallagher to you all, which is not a familiar face. But before I do, I want to introduce 2 other gentlemen here that is most critical to our company, and that is Mr. Jeff Fisher, who's here, who is our president of Gallagher, and then Todd Lewis, who is our Southern Region Vice President. So, as we get started here on our Gallagher's role here, what we have is, I don't think that our relationship with the board is new at all. I think that's been pre-established over a number of years. Jeff was sharing with me earlier tonight, not only from the 2014 bond election, but from just the number and the magnitude of the size of that project. And previous projects of that, now here we are again. But most importantly, we're just very excited to continue to be a part of the Porte ISD construction management. I think that it's well to be said that our relationship is based on our approaches, of our focus, of our teamwork, and the transparency of it. So before we even begin in the next few slides, I'll say this. I think that from the standpoint of a construction manager, his success being the manager and to be responsible for the decisions that the board makes financially and for construction, it comes down to the team. And it takes a very strong collaborative team to put together a fast-track program like what we've got. We'll be engaging in here in the next few days. And to have the team members that's been selected, which is hopefully from the design team, and to have Tellefson involved as the CMAR, it gives a lot of ease to us to know that we've got that good team. So as we move forward, give you just a high level of our roles as the manager. Please excuse me for my sinuses. But as the program manager, Gallagher is an extension of the district to oversee the best interests of the stakeholders, the entire board and the board. So I remember when I was much younger, and my dad was involved he was a school board member, and I was a young parent. So I went to that meeting, and the word came up about stakeholders, and the contractor at that time asked a question for him to give him the definition of the stakeholder. But he said, most importantly, whom we are, the students are the stakeholders, because they're the end users facility. So keep in mind that that's our approach. We have a lot of interest in what the end product is going to be. Gallagher will lead and maintain and complete the oversight of each construction phase to ensure accountability at all levels. Gallagher will continue to work closely with the executive leadership of Dr. Jackson. Dr. Bromley has been the first point of contact to oversee all post-bond 2023 construction activities. And then finally, Gallagher will report to the board on a monthly basis, but however, from that, keep in mind, as you'll see later on in the presentation, that there's a lot of other reporting mechanisms that's out there that brings us to that board meeting at the end of the month. Gallagher's post-bond roles and oversight responsibilities are not just limited to, but it's to coordinate the design and the construction phasing, the master budget development and tracking, the schedules, phase planning, interfacing, and the owner's use and needs. Develop and manage program charter, post-design and GMP, post of the design and GMPs. Permitting processes and maintaining relationships with the local authorities. Contract oversight for design, construct, third-party resources. And then the closeout requirements in the commission. Ongoing documentation and quality assurances and financial controls, which is a daily operation, weekly operation, bringing us to the end of each month on a reporting basis to the client. We'll ensure that life safety is paramount at all times. Assemble sponsors and stakeholder oversight committee. Monitor communications between the architect, contractor, and third parties. Monitor all construction activities, build per the design criteria and the safety. We will be observing the bidding processes and attend all the bid openings. Monitor the permit process, the schedules, the phase planning. The weekly OAC meetings with the Porte ISD, the architects and the contractors. Review all documentation reports from the contractors, testing laboratories, and so forth. The master budget development and tracking. Will coordinate the punch list walks with the Porte ISD, the contractors, and the architect. Review all project-related pay applications and invoicing prior to the owner's review and payments. Closeout requirements such as the O&M manual, the as-built, and more. As I close out on that, I'll just say this, I talked about made a comment that we have a really strong and great team to lead this through. It's a robust team because the members that has already come forth from the standpoint of Tim's team over at Huckabee and to Sam and Bill's team over at Tolson, brings a tremendous amount of confidence to us to be part of the process of oversight and management. Not to the point that we should say it makes it easy, it makes it easy. So, with that being said, I'll yield my time back to Dr. Brown.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hurd. Appreciate you. Obviously, there was a lot of bullets, a lot of good things, a lot of oversight, a lot of assurance to protect us as a district, to, again, ensure what's happening on the field before it hits the desk of Dr. Jackson, that it's being looked at and reviewed to its purpose. Next up, we have Tellefson. I'm going to invite Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Bill Brown up here to discuss their role as construction manager at risk. Obviously, these guys are no strangers to LaPorte ISD. Lots of history. There's going to be a slide up here. I think every building that we have in the district, they had a little say in it.
Thank you. We're going to start out with just a brief overview of Tellefson. We're founded here in Houston in 1909. We're still a family-owned company. The fourth generation is now at the helm with Tad Tellefson on the far end. His father, Howard, still sits on the board as chairman. We've got a list of projects, many of which I've been a part of. I think this would be our fourth bond, and we started here in 2005. So it's always a pleasure to be here in this community and work with this district, and we're really excited about this one. I'm going to turn it over to Bill for our team.
All right, good evening. How's everybody? Good, good. We are super excited to be here, and we thank you. We're honored to be here again. I mirror what Sam said. So we are, I know everybody's anxious about when we're going to get started, so I'll try to help you get there, right? And so we've got an excellent team. I am your client executive. I am your stakeholder engager, as we was talking about earlier. I am the man that gets all the credit when things are going good, and y'all get to shoot at me when things are going bad. So, but with that, no pun intended, let me say that. But I take delight in making sure that our youth and our kids are getting a quality education in buildings. It means more to us. We have a value within Tellefson that says be a part of something bigger than yourself. And when you get to sit in a board meeting like this, which a lot of times we don't get to do, it helps you understand the magnitude of what you're getting yourself into. So with that, we do have Zach Moffitt here. Zach is going to be your boots on the ground. He's going to make sure that this thing goes off with as few issues as possible, and we'll go from there. But we have an excellent, so right now we're in the process of estimating and bidding the project and getting everything ready to go. And so we've got an excellent team that was on that org chart. Go back to the org chart real quick. Yeah, this team over here is our estimating staff. They're working with Zach, myself, Sam. Sam's in charge of those folks who are actually, we're in the process of bidding the job as we speak. And we'll talk more timeline in a minute. And then on the management side, Zach's got a team that'll be underneath him. And then on the field side, we got Brian Lambert, who was our senior superintendent. He's not in the room tonight, but Brian is no stranger to LaPorte. He understands everything about LaPorte. And so we brought him back into the job to make sure. Some of you probably know Brian very well. So again, and we have a superintendent here. So we feel like we brought the A-team back on campus. We've got a monster to tackle in a very short period of time. And then I think we roll into a couple of slides with some of our resumes. So again, Sam's no stranger here. His resume speaks for itself. For me, this is my first K-12 school, but what I was brought in for was because I'm a very seasoned individual on jobs that are large, complex, have aggressive schedules. That's what I'm known for. I've been doing this 30 years, and I know the process. I know what it takes to get from you know, with the end in mind, working ourselves backward, and then we go forward. So that's my key, is to make sure that we take a very complex bond and make sure that we are good stewards of your money and all that. So, and then next we've got Mr. Lambert. And so, like I said, again, you guys all know him. He's been here on several of the schools here. And so with that, I think we get into the timeline. So everybody wants to know when we're going to start. So right now, I'm going to start backwards. Our goal is to start right after the 4th of July. But there's a lot of things that have to happen, trigger points that have to happen before we get started. So we are right here where Dr. Bromley and his staff have already started to demobilize. We're getting into our bidding phase here. So on June 8th, which is Thursday, we take our first bids. And so that process, you know, when people say, when are you going to start? There's a process to it. It takes a little bit of time. It took us, the market kind of tells us how much time they need to bid jobs. And in this case, it was about 30 days when we took off, when we got the job, and we asked the market, you know, when can you bid this? Give us enough time, and that's the date. So we're going to take bids on the 8th. We're going to get everything approved, hopefully in these 2 weeks. I'm sorry, all the way out to, we got one phase that we're going to get started to try to get the demo going, right? So you have the demo, getting this stuff taken out of there so that we can get ready to go. And then while we're doing this, this is a very, what I would call a small part of the process. We get into GMP2, or Guaranteed Maximum Price, if you've never heard that terminology, where we get the rest of the job bought out and we get a number set that we can all agree to and roll with. The key to this job, and when you try to answer a question about when do you start, it's not so much about starting fast. If you're paying attention to the market, supply chain issues hit construction just as much as they do manufacturing and everything else. So we have to be good stewards of your money in order to order the big material that needs the big equipment, the big electrical, mechanical. We have to order those things with the end in mind so that we don't outbuild ourselves. In other words, we don't want to start so fast that by the time the electrical gear gets here, we got a whole lot of men and women sitting out on the job with nothing to do because we don't have the material we need to get here. So we have to work that into our schedule and then kind of work backwards to figure out when we start. And so that's all going on in the background as we speak, so that by the 10th, we believe that by the 10th is when we can start, but we still have to let the market tell us that. So as we get these bids in this week, we're getting more and more information and feedback on things that are going to take some time to procure and to get here on the site. So we don't want to shut it down too awful quick or get going too awful quick, or we'll work ourselves into a hole that we can't get out of. And if you think it's hard to answer questions about when you start, think about the questions you have to answer when you're sitting there doing nothing and everybody's like, okay, what's going on? So we have to be very, very good stewards of your time and your money. We can do a number of different things. We can go fast, we can get this thing done, we can do all kinds of stuff. But sometimes that takes more money, that takes time, it takes things that you don't want to, you want to maximize every dollar that you guys have for this building. And we want to do it efficiently so that we can give you some return on your money. I heard things about travel and things like that. See, those things get in our head so that we can tell our teams, the faster we get this thing done, the more money we bring back to the district. So we listen for those. I was so glad we sat here and listened to that, so that we know that there's a bigger purpose to what we're doing than just building a building, because we do that every day. We need to understand why we're doing it, and you're giving us the why. So with that being said, I'll shut up because I can talk all night long, but because like I said, I get excited about stuff like this. So I think that's the end of our slide. Oh, I did want to talk about logistics. And so again, not only are we being good stewards of your money, we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we're making sure that this job goes off as safe as possible, and that we, as Tellefson and Gallagher and Huckabee, we are considered guests at your, I was going to say university, but your campus. We're guests here, and we know that. And so we try to make sure this logistics plan is very preliminary, but we can talk about it more in detail. We can unpack it. But our main goal is to make sure we separate ourselves from the rest of the campus. And that is to give your students the safety, the faculty the safety. There's going to be a lot of big cranes, and everybody's going to be excited about what they see. And you know, some of the kids, you know, they'll want to get into construction. We'd love to bring them out there, but we have to make sure that we keep them safe and keep everybody safe. So this is a kind of an outline. This red is what we call a fence line. We've got to establish your life safety and egress. We have to make sure that your fire trucks can get in on time or get in the way they need to get in. If there's an emergency, we have to make sure we have access here. So that's what this represents. We're going to have trailers. I don't think you can see them, but they're down here on this end of the, just east of the field. And then we've got some laydown areas that come off of the site, but we're trying to minimize that and try to get some just-in-time things and keep from cluttering the site to the point that it's an eyesore. We don't want that. The other thing is we're trying to develop a traffic plan to bring traffic into the job off of Texas, kind of work our way around the site, and if they have to come this way, because we're going to be building this thing in concurrent, so that we can get through and get out of it. So we've got to make sure we've got a good traffic plan. We understand the hours of peak travel time and pickup time for the kids. We get all that. So we're trying to make sure that we give ourselves and you a logistics plan that's going to work for not only the job site, but ultimately for the campus. And it will evolve.
And people need to still get to the Dairy Queen.
I didn't know that, but we'll make sure that happens. Yeah. Sometimes we might just have to set Dairy Queen up right here. Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but that's kind of the 30,000 foot view level of what we do. We could get in the weeds all day, but like I said, we're just happy and excited to be here. So we'll answer any questions you have after we get down here. Thank you.
Okay, Tim, if you guys want to get it switched out. No, he doesn't have we're going to switch him over. Yeah, so good view there. Obviously, the logistics is critical, and I think Bill hit it spot on. It's not about how fast we can do it, but how efficient we can do it to ensure everything's set up so when we do start, right? We don't have to stop. It's those long lead items and so forth, but super excited to work with Sam, Bill, and the team. Obviously, I'm new to LPISD, so I'm new to this process, but it's been fabulous. Tim, we've been together for a while now, right? Okay, so we got Tim Barnes and Assad here from Huckabee, our architects, and they get to do the fun part of showing you the cartoon here. So, you want a microphone or you? Okay. Can you hear me okay? Perfect.
Well, while Sean is getting everything set up, I also want to kind of congratulate the board for successfully passing this bond. It's kind of interesting. One of the, when Huckabee was first selected by the district to be your design architect on the new stadium and all future bond projects, and we first started meeting with Dr. Jackson and his team, the design committee as part of the stadium, one of the first questions that we asked and the answer we got was because, you know, why we're doing this project was because your students deserve it. And it's kind of interesting to see that when, you know, the bond election that took place on May 6th, the community clearly echoed those same comments that we heard from Dr. Jackson and this board and your team, because it was overwhelming. If you think about the culture that we were all in at the time, it was overwhelming for a bond referendum that features an athletic project to pass in such a number. So I think it shows that this district is in sync with the community, with the community, and the community in sync with the district. So it was important also, and you heard me talk about this in some of our past presentation to the board as we met with the design committee, that it was important that this facility continue to be a kind of a community gathering spot, right? It was always a sense of community. This is where everyone knows when you come to Porte ISD or when you come to the city of LaPorte that this site represented that belonging to the community, and so they wanted to maintain that. And it was also important to make sure that we enhance the kind of the fan experience, whether they were going for a game or a band event or a track event. So it was important that the new stadium kind of enhance that type of atmosphere, the kind of the experience from the community. And we also heard that this is not just a district stadium, but it's a community stadium. And so we kind of kept that in mind going throughout the whole entire process. As I said, we've had several meetings with Dr. Jackson and his team and the board going over this. I know we've had some different iterations of this to make sure we got it right. And I think this clearly reflects the overall goals of the community of LaPorte. So one of the things that this is going to do as once the stadium is completed or the facility is completed, is that it's going to dramatically increase the seating capacity at the stadium. So you're going to go to about 8,500 plus seats at the new stadium. We also are going to include an expanded track area. You have a new 8-lane track to allow for the district to be able to host UIL events. And one of the unique things you'll see as we kind of get into the stadium as well, when we talk about the seating is how it responds to the current reserve seatings and special guest seating. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But it was also important for the committee to make sure that the front door of the stadium remained the same. So if you notice that coming off of Fairmont here, we're going to maintain that same front entrance into the stadium to face Fairmont, because that was one of the concerns that we heard from the design committee, that they didn't want to reorientate people's perception of what's going on the campus. So we maintain that same front entrance. And if you kind of notice here, this little dash outline is kind of where the existing field house sits. So when it's all said and done, that field house is demoed. You can see the stadium is going to be located just a little bit north of that existing field house, but it still has that front door appearance. You have access for visitors and visitors to the facility through these gates on the southwest and the southeast side of the stadium, here and here. We have kind of bus access for visitors parking, kind of drop off, and to access the locker rooms for the visitors. And of course, maintaining that pedestrian connection between the existing site and the rest of the athletic facilities, between the Bulldog Arena. That was another strong recommendation from the committee. We're going to maintain the access, one of the things we did was we consolidated the press box that you currently have, one on the home side, one on the visitor side. What we did as part of our review meetings with the committee was consolidated that press box. And so what that does is that it allows us to create more views to the bay. It also kind of enhances that same kind of community or the experience as you're inside the stadium. And as we kind of spin around here, you can see the access to that press box is coming off of Texas Street. There'll be a way to get into the upper lower level of bleachers on the home side, as well as the lower level from that press box.
Talk right here, hold on, sorry.
Sure.
Couple things. So our current video board that's inside our current stadium will be stored, and then we'll be putting it outside here. So
Yes.
actually, when you go back to the front, if you drive up from Fairmont, our current board will be there. So we can advertise and use that as, it's still under warranty.
Yes, yes.
Yes, we're going to reuse that.
Okay.
Remember here, we've got locker rooms built in, so anytime we rent a facility, which we will be doing a lot of, they can come in and never have to use our side tanks. As far as the band and all that, talk to them a little bit about how that moves and works.
I would, yes. So what, as Dr. Carter mentioned, that the existing school board is going to still be on that Fairmont side of the stadium. We're going to turn it so it faces Fairmont, so that can be utilized for advertisement, community engagement. And of course, you'll have at the conference center, there will be a new school board at the conference center. As Dr. Bromley also mentioned, as I talked about, so right now there's going to be 2 new visitors locker rooms on either side of the stadium on the Fairmont side. When it's a home game or a game versus the Porte ISD, they'll be able to utilize one of these locker rooms for the visiting team. If the district decides to use the facilities for someone outside of the district, then once again, they can also use this locker room over here as well as this one without using your existing locker room facility for your team. And so it allows the stadium to serve a dual purpose, not only on behalf of the district, but also outside interests as well. And that's kind of part of that community and experiences, whether it's for a Porte ISD event or another event. Before we pivot around, I just want to kind of talk real quick about the concourse level, what you have here. And you heard me mention how your seating capacity is going to about 8,500 plus seating capacity. Well, what we were able to do in the center section on the home side, we were able to expand the reserve seating to over 1,100 seating capacity. That's between the upper and the lower section of those seats with the seat backs. And then we're also providing access from the press box to that upper level seat. Yes, sir.
One question just to add on that, seat back is good, those benches.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
And that's throughout the whole stadium.
That's in the center section of the reserve seating is on the home side. Now, the rest of the stadium has the bench type seating. And on the concourse level,
We wouldn't be able to afford it.
and then you wouldn't know that you were special, right? If everybody had a seat back. Just kidding. Correct. And the other thing that's unique about this that you'll see.
So how many seat backs are we talking about?
1100 seat backs.
No way to be, we're not defining color, but it is black.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to talk about to make sure on the concourse when we talk about that fan experience. So along the concourse area on both the home side and as you go around the bowl and on the visitor side, there is ADA seating with companion seats all along that concourse. So it's really a unique experience. But keep in mind that concourse level is higher than your current stadium seating. So what's going to happen is that experience is, as you're on the concourse, that angle is a little different than what you currently experience. And so once again, you get a better feel of being at the event. And so I talked about the lower seating here with the accessible seating or the ADA seating on this concourse with upper seating. The other thing that this project allowed us, because it was important that the facility stayed at this existing site, because this is what everyone knows is the Porte ISD, is that because of the configuration of the site and us wanting to expand that seating capacity, what it did was it allowed us to create this bowl configuration, which is very unique in K-12 stadium design. But what that also does too is that it also now creates a location for the student spirit to really kind of shine through. Because now you kind of get that collegiate feel to where the kids, if the district prefer, can set up the student section in the bowl so they really feel like they're at an important event. Yes, sir.
Well, like when we built the Bulldog Center, I kind of modeled off the one in Glenville. So is this bowl shape, is there one that y'all kind of modeled this off of?
So we took some experience from what we see at like an Ohio State University, but obviously at a much smaller scale. Kind of. But really, what's unique about this is that, the interesting thing about this is the way this goal came about, it wasn't because we were looking to create a goal design. It really was to be able to kind of maximize the seat capacity given the restraints that we had on the site. And so that allowed us to do just that.
Now, not increase the seat capacity, but you're not sacrificing playroom, right?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. Okay. Like I said, you have maximum seating.
And then you're gonna be able to control, is people gonna be able to go from this side all the way to this side on a constant basis anywhere? Are we gonna have any control when we play teams on, as we're not gonna let one side go to this
There'll
side?
be an entire makeover of how we handle safety, how we handle wayfinding, how we handle that administration approach, right? So, do you have access technically with it? Yes, but we won't allow that, right? So we'll have to break that apart, separate that.
And so here's the thing too about the design, and what we were able to do is, we created 3 different zones on the home side and 3 different zones on the visitor side for restrooms and concessions, right? So even at the road, there's a separate restroom and concession on this southwest corner, as there is on the southeast corner. So there's no reason for a visiting team to have to come on to the Texas Street side to access restrooms or concessions. So it gives you that control. And then, as you know, that you can come in through the main gate off of Fairmont. There's access ramps on that side, as well as access gates on the right-hand side of where the existing scoreboard is. So once again, you can separate how people are accessing the site. The other unique thing, if you'll spin around to the conference center, and I'll talk about the conference center in a minute. The other thing that we've done is we've created the kind of an entry portal on the northeast and the northwest side of the stadium. So once again, if you're coming from that existing parking in front of Bulldog Arena, you can access the stadium this way. And then if you're coming from the existing elementary school, you come across G Street and you can access the stadium that way. Once again, you create those separate entry points into the stadium without having to cross a lot of traffic. And then the other thing that and you can't see it on this angle, but what's at the center of the stadium, there are maintenance gate issues or entries, as well as for the band and the tires. Is that right, Tyler? Tyler, coming from the Bulldog Arena into the stadium underneath the bleachers and giving access to the field. So as we swing around to the conference center, and that's the other.
Yeah, no, thanks. So the breakout line on the facility is the same break that we have throughout our district. It's the National Bulldog Center.
Okay.
The entry points, everything is accessed, so the reason why it's been broken apart is for safety, evacuation routes, and manage all of that, right? Also, as far as fencing, all that will be fenced and managed. There will be no way to get into it without a key, right? So all that obviously changes that way. But we will have to teach a new way of how we do things.
And we talk about the security for a moment, because as far as the line of sight, whether it be in the concourse, wherever, if you don't have admin patrolling, SROs, the way this design is, they're able to make it easier for them to help secure those things.
Yes, sir, it is. So all of these functions I talked about on the concourse level are kind of pushed back a little bit, so it opens up that concourse so that you have a clear line of sight. If you're on this end of the stadium on the home side looking down this way, you'll have a clear line of sight of all the activities taking place on the concourse as well as the visitor center. So that's what yes, and we work closely with your security team to make sure that control points are maintained. Because I know one of the things that they first talked about when we started meeting was the accessing the facility issues.
Right.
And so that's why you see these controlled entry points kind of minimize the risk of people being able to just jump a fence or getting access into the stadium if they haven't properly paid. So as I said, there are entry points on the northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest front of the building.
Now, a nitpicky question here.
I'm gonna talk about the conference center in a minute.
No, we'll get to that. As far as consolidating on the press box, it's going to have multiple elevators.
Yeah, there is an elevator in the press box. Correct.
Not just one, I mean two.
Just one.
I think maybe two.
Why would we need 2 days?
One goes out, and the other one is
It's a larger.
we have one that, anything better than one that's in there.
And there are stairs on both sides to get you access to. And the other thing about the press box before I get to the conference center, you heard me talk about the UIL events that could potentially take place inside the stadium. On the second level, on the third level of the press box, there's an open film deck, so that if you're having a function inside the stadium, let's say it's other than a game, coaches or what have you can actually go out on that film deck and see what's happening on the field.
Drill team track.
Exactly. And there are
G Street? Yeah, G. I mean, it's not a great street now. Are we gonna have to expand it any or make it any bigger than we're doing?
Not at the very moment. We're looking at the possibility of some services on the network in the city.
And there was a traffic impact analysis that was submitted, and right now, the only thing that's recommended is an additional light at the corner of G Street and Broadway, yes. So right now, that's still going. Another thing about the press box, you heard me talk about what's happening on the coaches level, on the upper level, but at that second level, just above the concourse level, is what we call the hospitality suite. And adjacent to that, you have your audio-visual team for the district that operates there. There's a separate audio-visual for the visiting team on the other side of the press box, so they're not next to each other. Then, of course, the visiting team coaches would be on the south side of that of the press box on the upper level, and the home side is on the right-hand side. So they're once again they're separate. The conference center, that's the other part of the project that was once again was very important to the team. And one of the things that they wanted to make sure was that the location of the conference center and the athletic facility that's on the first floor is on the north side of the new stadium, because it would give the athletes immediate access to not only the stadium, the field inside the stadium, but also the existing fields just across G Street, the tennis courts just in front of the Bulldog Arena. So your athletes are here on the first level. You have football lockers on the left-hand side of the building and 4 generic locker rooms and showers on the right-hand side. There's also a weight room on the first level that opens up to the field. And then on the second level, there's the conference center. The nice thing about that conference center that's on the second level is that it is capable of holding up to 400 plus people, but it also can be subdivided into 5 different seminar rooms, so that if you didn't want to have the entire space open, you can subdivide it into multiple, either 5 or 3 or what have you. And all of those conference centers also have access to a balcony just outside of, so they can, that's also space for the field.
So
yes,
you-
sir. Okay, go ahead.
One elevator. Over your head?
Well, I'm gonna ask, there's two things about that. The capacity is 450, and let's say we have a large professional development. One is kind of looking at how many parking spaces we got for that. And 2, 2 elevators at least for those educators. They're gonna be tired of this. I like the way you think,
There's access. There are access stairs and an elevator in the main lobby into the conference center.
So, let's go this view though. So if you come in here, as you enter, there's that spot. So you see all the way through the entire facility. It'll take you into a lobby. It's going to be vestibuled up with a security panel there with glass and controlled access. As you move left, that'll be your weight room, and then obviously on top is where professional development is.
Yes,
Can I ask
so,
a silly question?
no.
Because I'm going to, because I visited, a building in Clear Creek with this similar concept.
Okay.
Talk to me about ventilation and separation. Because if I'm in professional development, I don't want it to smell like the weight room.
Yes, it's 2 different systems. So on the mechanical plans, there's a different unit that's serving the locker room area versus the conference center. And the other thing that Dr. Brown kind of touched upon when you come.
We had to walk through that to
Yes.
get upstairs.
So
It was not nice.
no, I understand, and so.
They had an elevator, but the smell was still there.
So, and you heard Dr. Brawley mention this earlier, so when you come to that main entry into the conference center off of G Street, there is a set of secured glass doors that's going back toward the athletic locker rooms. So no one has access through those doors. You have to take the stairs up to the conference center on the second floor, so you don't pass through where the locker rooms and the weight rooms are if you're coming in that main entrance. And this entrance that you see on the back side of the stadium,
Obviously,
that's
y'all
just
didn't
that.
design that, right?
No. And then, so here's the main entry into the conference center. And you see the full height glass here, and then just behind that glass is a set of monumental stairs that take you up to the second level of the conference center.
Look that we got.
Same material and what have you. So as far as parking is concerned, so on the stadium site proper, surrounding it, you have, we're gonna get about 682 parking space in that particular area, in addition to the existing parking that you have at the high school and some of the surrounding facilities.
How many parking spaces close to the professional development? We're at 450 capacity, let's just say we max, professional development. How many parking spaces on that end?
So just in front of the Bulldog Arena, I think there's like 221 parking spaces. There's another 15 that we're putting here. Then we're adding this secondary lot here, and then off of Fairmont, there's another 200 or 300 spaces in total, plus what you have in front of the high school.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm trying to get educators coming to the they're not gonna park on that end, they're gonna come in
Right
here, that's why I want to,
They'd be
yeah.
better off parking at the elementary school.
Which remember with the auxiliary field, we'll have that walkway in the back of that. So for the elementary, obviously that's some parking.
Yes, so as you
There's
schedule
no
it,
possible to be able to get that done.
that's right.
But
There's never gonna be enough parking, no matter what.
And we had preliminary meetings with the city to discuss this. We understand the amount of parking that we would prefer to provide for the facility, but because we're kind of landlocked, they're working with us in the district to accept the maximum amount of parking that we can get on that site without tearing
One of the
down.
concerns that I have, and maybe this came from my lovely broken leg last year, but until you've been in a wheelchair, you don't think like a person in a wheelchair. And you park, okay, so maybe you get to park somewhere close to whatever. But then once you get there, the ramp is way over yonder. And then where you're supposed to sit is way over there. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, who designed this?
So the parking off of Fairmont to get to those access ramps is less than 60 feet. And then the distance from this existing accessible parking in front of the Bulldog Arena and some of the parking we're putting here, once again, is less than 90 feet. And so,
But the seats where they would sit are at the front of the
they're on the concourse level. So as you come up these stairs, if you're coming up the ramp on this side, and you're on that, once you get up to that concourse level, there's ADA seating or accessible seating all along here. And if you're coming up the ramp on this side, once you get up to the concourse level, there's seating all along that area as well.
Where's the closest entrance for the high school students that are coming to work out in the weight room? Because it's kind of safety concerns, that's a long walk.
So, coming out of the existing high school, there's an entry gate here that they can come through to get to this, or they can stay on the outside of the stadium and then come through. There's a little door on the side of the field house here that they can access.
Or why is the weight room the other way?
That'll go down at the very end of the parking. Now, all the
No, but
equipment.
I mean, isn't there a weight room inside Bulldog?
Oh, yes. But we use all of those, yeah, there does.
Yeah.
But football students are going to be kind of this one.
They'll come to this one.
So I think we're fighting.
It'll be used by more than just football, but yes.
I know, I just.
So that distance, once again, if they come out at the exit door from the arena or from the high school or coming from this part of the campus, coming down this sidewalk here, there's an entry door into the athletic locker room area.
And that's football on that side.
That's football on the left-hand side, closer to the building, and then the 4 generic locker rooms on the right-hand side.
So those are programmable for any sport, male, female, we can change for every year if we want to. So they've got ADA, all the Title IX compliance, everything that we've ever had to deal with, is taken care of through that. Before we go too far, real quick, stay right there, aside. Detention of water.
Yes.
Right, so we know the challenges, and it is a challenge, a big piece of what we're doing with the budget of this, to maintain water and to some degree slow it down to keep everything from flooding. So pretty much everything that you see out here We're gonna get some stuff down here, and further south is the parking lot of Fairmont. Going into Fairmont will be underground detention.
Can you zoom around to that Fairmont?
We went overboard to ensure that we are comfortable with.
And it's all under pavement parking, so you don't see the detention pond as unmanned.
Yeah, it will not be a detention pond like we got there. It's there. That we're hiding their bodies.
So we talked about the existing scoreboard being reused, it is kind of reorientated so it faces Fairmont. So the other thing that we're obviously is adding is this new scoreboard on the face of the new conference center. Now this scoreboard is sized so that if you're sitting in the bowl, once again, you hear me talk about that fan experience. You want to make sure if I'm at the game, if I'm sitting in that bowl, I should be able to see the scoreboard just as well as anyone else. And so the scoreboard is sized to accommodate just that. So it's very similar to what you see at Katy. A little bit larger, and that's because of the bowl here, and we'll make sure that fan experience of being able to see the scoreboard. Yes, sir.
I asked Dr. Bromley this a while back, but just for the sake of the public, I've been asked this question as far as the type of lighting, LED.
Yes.
And I know some people say in some stadiums, touch down, they can flicker, they can change colors, all that.
Whatever you want.
So there are LED fixtures all around the stadium. In addition to that, there's a little ribbon systems on the face of the upper seating where you can broadcast scores and what have you. Yes, all the way around on both sides. Yes, sir.
I know it sounds like I'm obsessed with these streets, but we're building this beautiful stadium in Texas Street that's absolutely horrible. What are we continuing to talk to the city? I don't want to be the one to take it over, and I don't think the school district does either. But maybe if we can work on getting that road updated and the facade. That city or that county road?
We don't own that, that's the city. We have had lots of conversations about it, we'll continue. And I think as this stuff comes together, I think people will, maybe, will.
Sure, but my senior year, we painted a mural on the backside part of it, we just go ahead and paint the whole back page, it will recycle a lot better.
Yeah, the other thing we were able to do as well, even with some of the site constraints that we were dealing with, and by adding the 8-lane track in there, we were able to set the face of that first row of upper seating about 50 to 55 feet from the field level, from the football field, and then it's about another 10 feet from the start of the track. And once again, so that first level of seating is elevated. It is elevated in such a way that if your kid is on the outside lane of that track and they're running around, you still get a good view of them. Matter of fact, every angle in these seatings, whether it's the lower section or the upper section, is designed in such a way that, we keep saying it, that fan experience. So it's designed in such a way that even if you're at that very top level, what you're seeing when you're there for a track meet, or a game, what have you, feel like you're on top of the stage, you get a good view, you're not seeing, just the top of their head, you're actually getting a good view. We actually had a meeting a few months ago where we brought a demonstration of that to the design community so they can see whether you're in the press box or you're in the upper seat section or the lower section, what you see when you're
I noticed in some stadiums, because I guess they have large tracts of land, it kind of built it wide, you feel like you're so far removed from the.
And that was going to be one of our biggest concerns, that if we try to, add the additional seating capacity that we wanted to, if we just put all the seats in a straight line, well, if you're sitting on that end and something happened on this goal, you can't see. And so that's why it's kind of a blessing that we are able to utilize the site and allow us to keep create that bowl shape. So once again, you're able to enhance that fan experience.
Yeah.
So this concourse is wide enough, and we talk about, you got to think about that community gathering, right? So some of us will go to the game and actually watch the game. Some of us go to the game or an event to actually talk about the game. And so the reason we kind of set some of the amenities back on that concourse, it allows just that, it allows that interaction with the community. And we talked about Dr. Jackson, their team, even some of the seniors that in the community, if they're they've been a part of Porte ISD for decades, and they come to every game. Well, they can come into this press box. There's some an access stairs from this press box that brings them down to this upper level seating, and they don't have to go through all this.
Rail lanes for the
Railings and all that, so that was bad. Yes, and there's brick along that face, you know, we talk about that lower section that's elevated, there is masonry all the way around the inside of that face.
On that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was very important that the stadium and the conference center does not look like it just fell out of the sky somewhere. It has to have the same campus identity.
2014 bond to make sure it all kind of.
Yes, sir, it all is the same language. Now, we did take advantage of.
Coming in.
So there's a, can you see, you probably won't be able to see it here, but there is a, you see this little opening right here?
Yes, sir.
There's actually some access gates underneath the concourse level, so if they're coming out of Bulldog Arena, they can come underneath the concourse onto the field this way, as well as on this other side here, the same access gate, so they can access it either on the home side or on the visitor side without coming through this main entry.
That has no reaction.
Matt has no reaction? Matt, why you don't have any reaction? Okay, so that was important too.
But honestly, if the bands are in, if the band is
The band's in
in this little bow over here, you'll hear the band for a change
Yes.
versus the people that are sitting on the other side. Because if you're sitting on where the students are, the students can't hear the band. Only the people that sit right next to the band can hear. The people on the other side of the band can hear it in the visitor section, but now you'll hear it.
There's an opportunity, and I can't tell you guys, but there is an opportunity to create some of this seating around the bowl for the student section if you want. You want to put some of the rallies, you know, maybe in the bowl. But I'll let Coach Thompson speak to that. I like to put her on the spot.
That area
And like I said, these are separated so that if you wanted to leave some of this for the visiting team and had some of your seated over here, once again, there's no reason for, if I'm a Deer Park student and I'm here watching the game, there's no reason for me to come over here to go get a hot dog. I have my own concession. Have we already signed it? I do, that's right. So yeah, there's no reason for them to ever, leave out of this section and come over here for anything, for restroom or food or what have you. Yes, sir. They are conditioned restaurants, yes, sir. On both the, even the locker rooms that you see on the visiting locker rooms are conditioned spaces, and there's also official.
Do you have an internal view of the buildings? Maybe not right now, but if you can get it to, not like that, I'm getting sick watching here.
Okay. I want to make sure I cover everything and answer as many questions as I can.
Anything that we didn't answer.
We're supposed to go to the front, press box, from the Dairy Queen side
On the Texas
Texas Street.
the Dairy Queen side.
on G Street and Texas Street.
From the Orville, Texas.
Now, what we did do,
And yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about materials there, like it was for the finish.
so that's pretty, metal panels,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to create the illusion of a bulldog stance. That's why you gotta get that little angle to it. And this work, once again, working very closely with the city of LaPorte to make sure that this building is right on that property line on Texas Street. There's no occupied space over that line, so they're allowing us to build it right up to it. And once again, you create this nice two-story entry, and as you go into that press box on the main level, there's a two-story lobby, and on that second level is the Bulldog store. And so you can see that from the first level, you go up some stairs and you get to the store, but they sell merchandise. And then, as I said, on the second level,
All the lights here will match the city's current lights that they were putting in, so they obviously match. And this ain't what's going to necessarily be there, but the LPs that you'll see throughout will be backlit.
Is this press box bigger or smaller than the last one? Is it probably the same? Bigger? But two levels, right?
actually, we have the concourse level, you have the hospitality level, and then you have the press box level.
Finish line of the track's gonna be on the home side.
Pole vault, long jump and all inside the stadium, all thrown in, everything.
And so there's light poles that are going to be attached to, there are cameras that are going to be attached to the backside of the upper seating. So there'll be speakers all around the stadium, so the sound, it's not getting muffled. I know one of the challenges that you face is that right now all your speakers are mounted on your scoreboard. And so when your band is playing and the sounds come from that speakers on the scoreboard, you can't hear. Well, now your band can be anywhere. There's speakers going all the way around the stadium where you can always have that surround sound behind you. And even if you're on that lower level of seating, it's not being muffled and blocked out by any infrastructure.
That'll be nice for graduation.
Yes, exactly.
So we won't have. Okay, on this access, I know that we have closed Texas Street. Now I imagine we would, so they take away that piece in there. But they close it for game days. But are we looking at putting any like bollards down, like security, big pylons?
In the front right here, exactly.
Yeah,
so all
this.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's
Secured, so.
Because the driving school is right there.
Yeah. there is a wall, so a half wall on this front side, and then we also put the little skateboard things on there so no one can, ride a skateboard.
And the other thing too is whether it's on the back seats or anywhere that we have orange, that it is the Bulldog orange,
Yes.
not Tennessee orange or the right orange.
Not burn orange.
Yeah.
As much as I like burn orange.
So are we gonna have to hire security to sit here at night, and is that included in the construction cost? I would assume like most construction sites, there's a security personnel.
That's gonna be part of the general conditions from Tellison. They'll take care of that. And there is fencing all the way around the stadium, so you don't have access to the stadium without going through a control. You heard me talk about your current stadium. I can jump over that little fence by your concession stand here, probably all over my stadium.
Yeah, okay, real quick on that. But the fencing material, are we gonna look at chain link, or are we looking at that? The fencing, the perimeter fencing. Yes, a lot of them are where they can't.
And then there's perforated, and there's perforated panels underneath behind the.
That's all closed in.
So you don't see that.
So you talked about the lighting matching the city, the stadium lighting, will it be attached to the city or will it be towers?
There are new light poles, Moscow lighting poles that are going to be added. The existing ones are being relocated, so there will be two sets on each side of the sports lighting that's going to be added to the stadium.
So part of what, there's an action item after this, that our current lights that are in our current stages will be repurposing and moving them over to serve because they're still in the, so that's an item that we're pulling as a district because we want to serve those more needs. They still work.
And we have provided some placeholders around the stadium for future graphics and banners that the district can add as you want to on special occasions or for what have you, graduation day. So there are kind of placeholders all around the stadiums, plus on those light poles. And if you want to add specialty banners, you can as well.
And we do have an area that Doc has charged us with trying to find something unique. Once it kind of gets over here in this area, we'll have some sort of. Stop
right there. Stop.
What about, could we do maybe one of those things where people purchase a brick or?
From the current site?
No, she means like put your, engrave your name on it.
Yeah, we got time for that.
Yes, got placeholder for that, yes.
I guess another question is,
Did you notice on that budget thing, we're gonna be $8 million?
Yeah.
We gotta sell a lot of bricks.
And can I just add something to that real quick? So one of the things too that we noticed from talking with the district is since you have gone to a digital ticket system where everyone just, you go online order. So you'll have, as I said, you have these entry gates, you can access these entry gates. There will be someone there with a scanner. But then there's also a provision for a ticket booth in a press box if you just need to walk up and buy a ticket in person if they still need to.
So like the one that's underneath there now?
Yes.
Yes, sir, go ahead. I don't know what, but that's the consideration of history, all about history and tradition. Anything from before the demo or taken out from the old stadium,
that we will have here as a continuation, as a memorial place, and where would it be and what would it be?
We're still working on that, but we're trying to pull some pieces from the old Bulldog Stadium and reconfiguring something so it can take homage to the old city. So there will be a bridging of the two.
In addition,
I'm not gonna have an actual training room in there for this time.
here,
Yeah, where he doesn't have to transfer all his stuff at the time.
so in addition to the location that Dr. Bromley talked about outside the stadium, in the press box as well, when you first walk through that main lobby, there's a display case there where you can also put some memorabilia as well. Yeah, and it's exactly as well.
Okay, where can an ambulance get to the field?
So they have access on this side as well as on the G Street, Texas Street side, as well as on that back side by the.
Where those buses will park?
So those access gates that you heard me talk about that's on the northwest and the southwest side of the building are about 8 feet wide, so you can bring a full vehicle through there.
They can't get over on the other side?
Yes, on both sides. Okay. Yeah, so like I said, both sides of the stadium have access points for maintenance as well as pedestrians, kind of separate. And then one of the unique things is that by those locker rooms, the entry into the locker room for the visiting team, we close that off above the locker room so that if someone is up to no good, they can't throw anything down.
Shenanigans?
Yes. And the gates that, those, matter of fact, those, can you? But there's entry points, or those points, those gates around there, they're the only ones that will need to walk, so people are not coming in that way unless you walk. We want to control access to these four main gates here, on the northwest, and the southwest, the northeast, and the southeast side, for the press box. So those are the 5 points of entry that we want to control. The other two, which I call the maintenance or the band access, those will be locked and can be unlocked as needed.
Before you go around to the front of that, you said that there's an open passage you can see all the way through. Is that what you said? So you can go all the way through the field?
Yes.
Is that not a security issue with line of sight and intruders and things like that?
Are you talking about on that entry gate through there?
Okay,
she's talking about this.
Technically,
because it's non-classroom, is that why? It's
well, no, there's going to be, when you go in, you will not be able to go past the lobby. That's going to be a glass wall.
But yes, I do see what you're saying, you can see the space.
Yeah, but I was saying, you go around to the fence.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's what
But yeah, see, so you can see some of that. Technically, if you stood back there, you would want.
If you come to these gates here, let's say you're a non-badged person, if you come to that set of main set of doors, depending on if they're locked or unlocked, let's say they're unlocked in the daytime. Even if you access these doors in the daytime and unlocked, there's a locked set of doors just behind that you can't do it. Because remember, those are where the athletes are, and you can't go through that set of doors unless you can lock that.
You can't see. So we could look at graphics, and we could do something, yeah. They don't have film on already, but we'll have to look at something.
That's a good question. Anything else?
I guess for the professional development,
Yes. There's a large storage room on the second level, and once again, there's their own separate mechanical system for the second floor. This is from the locker room, and I'll touch upon about that before. So those locker rooms that you heard me talk about before, they're truly are generic locker rooms, and the restrooms and showers associated with them, they're generic as well. There's no urinal, all water closets. Still not so. And then their lockers are sized, there are 4 locker rooms there, and they're sized for whatever sport you want to use. Thank y'all, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bromley.
we'll go to item 7, action or discussion items. A, discuss graduation venue options for the class of 2024.
So on your tables, I've given you several options, and they're not in any particular order. A team of us kind of went around throughout different districts just to kind of see what was out there. And so I kind of put that in front of you to think through or give us some direction as far as something that you want us to look further into. It was very hard to gain cost because they don't want to give that to you just based off a phone call. So some of these are very rough. But as you can see, and again, these are in no particular order, but we've got Bulldog Center, the ability to do that, obviously being able to split graduation into 2 and do that by alpha, and that kind of gives you the statistics there. And then again, Memorial Stadium with Pasadena. Now, I put the top 3, so Pasadena, Clear Creek, and Galena Park, I put those first because they give us the ability to be there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and or Saturday. So those facilities are not used by their district. They use NRG or another facility. So we would have the ability to come in and, reserve that time with weather makeup and so forth. When you get down into these other ones, it gets a little dicey. Deer Park, obviously, they graduate on a Thursday. I don't even know if they give us Friday. When I spoke to the gentleman, he really didn't want to give that to me. So you can kind of see that we would, you can see that we would obviously be limited on our dates. It would cause us to change a bit. That's okay. That's what we want to do. We did reach out to Pasadena Convention Center, and all they have available outside of the Convention Center itself indoor was available on the 23rd, that Thursday, but the rodeo arena, I didn't think we wanted to do that. It's available. Okay, we want to do that. And there's only 2,400 there. So you get that at the Bulldog Center if we want to do that. That would give us, if you split the alpha, we were at what, 450 this year for 225, 10 guests. You could do up to 10 guests and do that split. It holds roughly 2,400, 2,500 to be able to do that. So again, that's kind of what we're looking at. It's moving very fast. I even spoke with Galena Park, and there's another district that sort of reached out to them. So we would need to kind of move quickly if we want to go in a direction.
I think proximity to here is going to be important, and then obviously availability. If I had to take a straw poll on now, I would say Pasadena would probably be a front runner.
Okay, Memorial?
Is Eagle Stadium the stadium we're going to be playing at?
It is.
So that's a Thursday and Saturday?
Correct. They graduate on Friday, so that would be a Thursday, Saturday, probably a morning on Saturday. Now, the only thing with Pasadena, I spoke to my counterpart, Dr. McCorley, I believe is his name, and they used Memorial during COVID because NRG, I don't know, they couldn't use NRG, and the concern there is parking. There's not a lot of it. He claims that they have to park in the neighborhood and so forth. He said it's not necessarily an issue and you can get by with it, but there's not a lot of parking to manage that. Now, they do, so we're used to that, right? Dairy Queen and all the things. Right, they're bigger, right. But and with veterans here at Clear Creek, they do not have a video board. So you would not, and I don't know if that's a deal breaker for us, but there would be no video board there, so.
You are on top of them.
You are there. They're real close. Travel time, they're all pretty much, obviously Deer Park being very close, Pasadena is decently close. I mean, 25 minutes, 20 minutes, depends on when you're leaving. 99 changes things, and that's obviously one of the reasons why that was a piece for us. NRG is not available. We could get it in 2 years. I looked at both of them.
And I'm not trying to be funny, the Abshire thing, I think that's a no-starter.
That's a lot of deer head over there.
But for that event, their heads would pop off.
It's just not worth the thing.
I guess, I just don't get why.
You wouldn't, right?
It's closer, it's right there, it's already set up. You could probably go in half on their speaker system that they have out there and do all that, and save money.
So every one of them said, well, hey, look, we're going to give you high estimates here, right? And so we may bring our own security. That's another $1,000 off. There's different things we could do. So
I say we don't spend any money and do it at Bulldog Center. I don't like it, but money-wise, say we come up with a couple of viable options and let the community vote. They're already having, you know, these kids are already being displaced for their senior year of whether they are in cholos or cheerleader or band or football or whatever, they're already being displaced for that. Let them have some ownership in what their last high school memory is.
So maybe give them free options. My thing about the Bulldogs,
I know,
Centre,
I'm sorry, I know.
the
But
Bulldogs,
I just think, I think the community needs to have a voice.
We gotta do it quickly, I'm telling you, while we're voting, Bill Sutherland is already
and really you can't, if you're talking about senior class, you're not waiting for August or September to get the.
We gotta get this done.
And I think Danny's right about the proximity. His deal, in my opinion, I would favor the Bulldog Center and having it split. I know that some people may not be happy about it being split, but I think there'll allow the number of guests. And we could work around as far as, you know, the ones that are doing speeches, whether to, they can show up at all times. I would not favor of doing one in the morning and one at night. I think they need to be in evening, separate days. So people that can get off of work can get to their child's graduation. And we're talking about these other capacity convention centers being out. I mean, just based on capacity, I mean, you might as well just have a Bulldog Center. But we're talking about the outdoors, but then we schedule a date, and if it rains, now you're going back to probably Bulldog Center anyway. And so, but I do have some caveats on the Bulldog Center though. One is, I guess maybe just being behind the podium, the acoustics in the are terrible in there. I don't know how we can improve on that, of course, but that's one thing. And like I said, if we do Bulldog Center, I don't see us like doing it like separated a couple hours. Because once the graduation's over, families like to stay, like to go, you know, take pictures. You don't want to rush them out and for trying to get them out before the next ceremony. So I think separate days and trying to keep it on weekdays, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, having to walk on Wednesday. Personally, I think it's important to keep the entire class together graduating. That's the only reason I automatically in my mind took the Bulldogs Centre out is I know what it's pronounced. I just don't know what it's spelled. But I don't. To me, it's just not a good option. You start your school together. You go for all 4 years. Everyone are best friends. Could you imagine David and I being best friends and graduating on?
So let me ask you this: Do you care if it's Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Wednesday?
I don't know.
Okay. Because I mean, if we think outside the box with that changes everything. You know, if we go on a Wednesday, nobody's doing that. Yeah. Because I hung on Thursday, Friday-ish, Saturday, and of course nobody wants to say, yeah, we'll let you have that.
Well, it's ideal.
The voice, I mean, I would give the community the voice, give them all this stuff, and then come back and take the top 3 and do it again really quick.
Do you want to take some away? Then we could work on cleaning it. Convention Center off.
I said we take away the one that doesn't have the video.
Here. Okay, so those 2 away. And then we can pinpoint, you know, availability.
Bring those back and build
for Tuesday.
Build a quick survey to let you guys look at before we decide to put that out.
I mean, we built for Galena Park. I mean, it would be our home stadium. We paid for it.
Yeah.
We built that for them. So.
Yeah, we got some calling the senior class.
Clever. Huh?
We're calling the senior class. Who are you giving them?
Oh, it's got to be seniors. Everybody else is going to count.
Yeah.
So you're looking at August.
I mean, Galena Park has a field house. When I spoke to the AD there, we can have access to that as well. So, you know.
Like staging area?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
It's obviously large.
As much as I think we appreciate everybody's input, the board may just need to make a decision. At least on location and give discretion on the date.
Okay.
I agree with Jason. I don't think that splitting up the class in senior year on your whole career on a graduate.
You're already split, not having a real estate.
Can we clean it up and bring it back to you next Tuesday? today? Yes. And then
So,
you know what kind of.
take that away, take that away.
Before you can look at it, y'all can kind of talk.
Keep these. Barb Seal, your part. Okay.
And they'll be familiar with it.
So they'd be one, they graduate on Friday, so we would, and,
So we get that information out.
yeah, and then we can move on it.
So the night of June 13th, on the June 13th,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that cleaned up. Okay. That's it.
No, it's just discussion. Item 7B, approved purchase of materials and services to relocate existing light posts from LaPorte High School football stadium to the practice field. Board, y'all have any questions on that item?
I do not, but I make a motion to approve it.
Ms. Thompson made a motion to approve it, seconded by Mr. Shoppy. Discussion. If not, we'll call for the vote by raising your hand for approval. It is unanimous. Okay, approved. Okay, we go to item 8, election of board officers and the reorganization of the board for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. I did have some a board member asking about tabling it, so as far as, because we don't have the full board here tonight, as at the will of the board, if y'all want to do that. If you do want to table it, I need a motion for that. If not,
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second it. Okay, Mr. Hanks made a motion, seconded by Mr. Sharp. Actually, before I do that, actually, if you want to table it to a specific date, June 13th, okay. So,
It's gotta be the
it's got me. Yeah, before me, so. Okay, so, Mr. Hanks made a motion to table it to June 13th, seconded by Mr. Shoppy. Discussion? Not call for the vote, by raise your hand. It is unanimous. Okay, item 9, closing comments of the board of trustees and superintendent. A, attendance at the recent district and community events. B, announcement of upcoming district and community events. C, outstanding performance by district staff and students. Board, do you have any comments?
Outstanding performance by everybody in the room tonight.
Yes. Okay. Go. All right. And with that, we adjourn at 8:27 p.m.